Hello and welcome back to another video, and this is kind of an unconventional video here because I'm going to be ranking in a tier list that I've made here just every single Nintendo series, Nintendo franchise that where they're going to end up in the Nintendo film and TV universe, I suppose, because obviously Furukawa recently said in the investors meeting that they are looking at they're looking beyond just Zelda and Mario for TV and movie endeavors, which is the obvious answer. I think everyone knew that already. Everyone kind of had picked up on that, and we were just waiting for more and more announcements. I think after Zelda it was definitely more clear. However, since he said it himself, I thought I'd just kind of go into all these different franchises and just go over what I think is likely, what I think is inevitable, likely, possible, depending on circumstance, and unlikely. And this is pre-recorded, but let's get into this tier list. There are some series here that aren't included, but I think the main ones are kind of here, and I won't be obviously discussing Pokemon Mario and Zelda, as they are already confirmed. So the first series that we have here is Advance Wars, and Advance Wars is very unlikely in my opinion. I don't really see the appeal for it beyond. And beyond being a game. Obviously, they can continue to remake the Advance Wars games or make a new one with the same resources. But I don't really see them using resources to make a show, to make an animated show or even a movie, when they could be using it on other series. Advance Wars isn't big really at all, so I think Advance Wars is very unlikely to be adapted into anything. I suppose anything could be depending on circumstances, but this one I'm pretty sure won't happen. Animal Crossing is a very, 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 very likely contender for a TV show or even a movie, but I think a TV show is what the doctor ordered, so to speak, because Animal Crossing is obviously their third biggest series, so it is inevitable. It is absolutely inevitable that we're going to get Animal Crossing announced at some point. It is such a huge deal for them. I think it would be very smart of them to do it as an animated TV show. You have like your other pillars being an animated movie and a more kind of mature, not maybe like a teen audience with a live action Zelda movie. So I think Animal Crossing then being a TV show, maybe like a slice of life, it would be a perfect balance there. I think that is a match made in heaven. There already is an Animal Crossing anime, obviously, but that is a very different situation. So I think Animal Crossing is inevitable. Next up is Bayonetta, and this one is in a weird spot because I put this in unlikely because there is some legal stuff with the rights to Bayonetta, I suppose. I know Nintendo, they paid for it, so it is Nintendo property, but it is still Sega owned, I believe. So I think if they're going to do a Bayonetta movie, I think they'd probably maybe get Sega to make it. No, they wouldn't get Sega to make it, but I think Sega would be the ones to choose it, whether they want to or not make a Bayonetta adaptation. But even then, I don't think there's much of an appeal for the brand at the moment. I think Platinum are kind of going downhill a little bit. So I'm going to say that Bayonetta is pretty unlikely to be adapted, and especially by Nintendo themselves. But next is Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong is inevitable. It's unlike Donkey Kong, you could say. This is, we already have our Donkey Kong. We have Donkey Kong Kingdom in the Mario movie, and Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, and we even have somebody as Cranky Kong, and I think I'm not sure, I forgot if Diddy actually speaks, but we have Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong and even Chunky Kong. So I think that it is a matter of when, really, with Donkey Kong. I think especially with Bonanza coming out and the big push that the series has had, there's no reason in my mind that this won't be made into a movie very soon. I think that it is a matter of time, really. I think Donkey Kong is absolutely inevitable as an animated movie. And before this video idea came to mind, I didn't think it was even a remote possibility. I even laughed at the fact that this was even. It makes sense as this is game franchises, but I just thought, oh, that's funny that that anyone will be entertaining the idea of a Dr. Mario movie or a show. But then I realised that a show that I used to watch, or I know that a lot of people I know used to watch, Doc McStuffins for Disney. It has a wide appeal, and I think Dr. Mario could really tap into that market. It's a great way of having the extended Mario cast show up and kill Dr. Mario World, and obviously you have a case by the week kind of scenario there. So I think the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is actually like a distinct possibility in my mind, and that is pretty insane to think about. But I think Dr. Mario could really work. So I honestly, if they announce that for made with a company that do preschool shows, I would not be surprised at all, not in the slightest. But next is Fire Emblem, and this one is, in my opinion, very, very likely. I think Fire Emblem is a big deal. Like, it is still not like appealing to everyone. It's not as big as Animal Crossing or even Donkey Kong, but it has its own market, because obviously it is appealing to the JRPG fans, and with Fire Emblem Heroes being a big success on the App Store, and obviously then they made Fire Emblem Warriors games. I think Fire Emblem is a very likely candidate for an anime. If they want to do an anime, I think Fire Emblem is one of the top contenders for that first slot. I think Fire Emblem is definitely becoming bigger and bigger for that kind of treatment, I suppose. It's got a massive cast as well, so there's so much you can do with it. I don't think you could really do it into I haven't played these games, but I don't really think you could make it into a movie. Not really appealing to fans, at least, making it a movie, I don't think. Next is F-Zero, and this is the first in the depends on circumstance tier, because F-Zero it should be an unlikely, but I think there is something to be said about maybe the attempt to bring it back, because obviously F-Zero 99 came out and it's successful enough to continue to be updated to this day. But F-Zero as a brand, obviously we've got F-Zero GX as one of the launch games for the GameCube, Nintendo Switch Online, and every single F-Zero game is on there. So I think that F-Zero could maybe get a new game, and if it does and it's successful, then Captain Falcon, I think, has become memeable enough, recognizable enough through Smash, that maybe they could do like an animated TV show, or they could appeal to like a really fast racing kind of like a F1 kind of thing, but with F-Zero. It could work. It could work, but I don't think it's very likely. But again, it just depends on what goes down really with the series as a whole. It's insane to think that I'm putting this in depends on circumstances and not just unlikely like these two, but I think it is a likely. It could happen. I think there's something there. There's more of an appeal I could see in it than versus Advance Wars and Bayonetta. But unlike F-Zero, Golden Sun is going in unlikely tier, because Golden Sun is unfortunately kind of outdone with a bunch of other options really within the same genre, and I don't think Golden Sun is really going to make a huge splash if it comes back. They might do a new game, they might do a remake of the originals, but none of them are ever going to be on a bigger scale, and F-Zero probably won't either. But I think Golden Sun is just kind of in a spot where I don't really think they have much of an interest in the series as a whole, and I don't think, even if they did, I don't think it would really go further beyond being a video game. So I don't think Golden Sun is really going to happen at any point, but I'm sure, again, a lot of these, even though they're unlikely, I think maybe they'd be good, but I don't really think Nintendo have an interest in that. Next, Kid Icarus is in a similar spot to F-Zero, but I think it's in a little better spot than F-Zero at the moment, because Kid Icarus does have a built-in fan base. It has a quite passionate fan base with Uprising, and I think that is a loud enough fan base that Nintendo might even know how big of a demand there is for a new game, and so when they do a new game, they might put a big amount of effort into it. if they do put like a huge amount of effort into it, they might want to then push it a little bit and pair it with maybe an anime, because Kid Icarus is obviously very anime coded now because of Uprising. I think there is a lot of potential there, a lot of beloved characters. Kid Icarus could make a really good show and a really good anime. So I think it does depend on if they do bring back Kid Icarus and it is a clear attempt like Donkey Kong. Maybe not as obviously not as big as Donkey Kong, but like a big attempt to really bring it back. Then yeah, I think an anime could really happen there. Next, Kirby. I almost went with inevitable, but I decided to go with very likely because Kirby is a very obvious contender for an animated movie. If they want to go outside of the Mario extended universe, Kirby is a great next step. It is very recognizable. It is extremely marketable. There's no reason why they wouldn't do a Kirby movie. So I don't know why it's not inevitable. I think the main reason is the whole HAL situation, but I don't really think that's much of an obstacle here. I think that Nintendo would be responsible for licensing out the brand into a movie. So I think an animated movie is pretty likely for Kirby, and I think a live action was not happening, but unless they want to do a Sonic movie but with Kirby, which I don't want to manifest that into existence. So Kirby is I think it's very likely. And continuing that train, Luigi's Mansion itself is also very likely in my opinion, because Luigi's Mansion is I mean, it's part of the Mario. Obviously, we have Luigi. Again, we have Luigi in the Mario movie, so there is already already have a Luigi actor, and he even had like a scene where it was kind of reminiscent of Luigi's Mansion, very vaguely. But I think this series is maybe different enough. It has its own identity enough to be its own thing, and not just be like a side thing in the Mario movie. But maybe that's what they just want to do now. I don't know. But I think Luigi's Mansion, each game gets bigger than the last. I think Luigi's Mansion 4 is rightfully going to be a huge game because Luigi's Mansion 3 sold so well. I think that it's a very obvious next step for the series. I think it's just a very obvious next step for the series to do a movie on it. I think you could make an interesting. I think it could be an interesting movie. Maybe even a show like case by case. But I don't know. I think it'd be a movie. I think you'd spin off into a Luigi's Mansion movie, maybe announce it alongside a Luigi's Mansion 4 game, which is definitely coming within the next few years. So I'd say Luigi's Mansion is it's very likely even. Next, the Mario RPGs here, and these are going in unlikely, but I need to explain something here because I think that I could see Mario and Luigi being adapted, like Bowser's Inside Story, for example, being vaguely adapted into a future Mario movie at some point. Even same with Paper Mario, maybe less so, but I don't think that we're ever going to get a Paper Mario movie or a Mario and Luigi movie, like point blank. So I'm putting these on unlikely, and even in loosely adapting into a movie. Into the Mario movies, I think they're going to stick to the main line, so I don't really think that the Mario RPGs are really going to have much of an influence on future Mario movies, so I put this in unlikely, but there's always a chance that Mario and Luigi might influence the story of a future Mario movie at some point. Next, Mario Kart. This one is a little bit likelier to be adapted on its own because Mario Kart is obviously their biggest series, really. I mean, it's their highest earning series, I think, on its own. Like the Mario Kart franchise is just so lucrative. So Mario Kart could make a good, as I was saying before with F-Zero, making like an F1 style kind of movie. But with Mario Kart, there's more of a wide appeal, I suppose. So I think you could really make that work and have their own cars situation, but with Mario characters. You could even do that as a show, but I think maybe if I think they have enough idea. I think Dr. Mario covers the show part quite well. So I mean, then again, I'm just assuming Dr. Mario would happen, but maybe not. Mario Kart could work as either, though. I'm not sure if it's likely, though, so I put it impossible, but it would make a lot of money for them, so I think it should probably be higher than Dr. Mario. I don't know, but we'll see. Anyway, On the other hand, though, Mario Party itself is, I think, pretty unlikely. I mean, it has Mario in name, but I don't really see the appeal. I don't really see the appeal to make this into a movie. I don't know. It's just, or a show even. It's just like, it's fun. Mario Party is fun, but it's not really. There's not really a niche it's tapping into that could be adapted into a show or a movie that would actually warrant that effort. So I'm gonna say that's very unlikely. However, on the other hand, Metroid, despite not being one of their best-selling series, I think this goes beyond just being very likely. I think it's inevitable. I think Metroid is the successor to Zelda in terms of being the next live-action attempt from them after Zelda, because it makes sense to me. I think they are trying to build this brand, as I've said before. I'm not sure if I've said it on the channel, but they are trying to build this brand. But you know, even then, I think Metroid has a lot of film DNA in it, obviously being based on Alien and Aliens. So if you kind of take that formula, you could make a really compelling and interesting movie. And I know that the worst Metroid games tend to be the ones that are talky, so some people would be against the idea of a Metroid movie, but I think you could make it work. I think you can still have that isolation and you know, without having to sacrifice it. I'm not sure if Nintendo would. I'm not sure. Maybe if we should trust Nintendo with doing that, because you'd have to really go out on a limb. But I think there is somebody out there. There's some director, some writer that understands Metroid and would make a really interesting. I think there was even going to be one with I forget which. Oh, is it John Woo that was going to make one? So there was going to be a Metroid movie at some point, and the only reason it didn't happen is because Nintendo was just a lot more closed off and went protective of their IP. But you know, it was considered at one point. So I think Metroid is definitely they're attempting to make it a thing, and I think that I think it's inevitable that we get a movie, and a live action one specifically. Now, on the other hand, Mother as a series is very unlikely to happen. This is, you know, a beloved franchise. You know, and it's over. It's done. So the only thing we're ever going to get from it again is probably maybe a remake or a re-release. But you know, it's not well known. It influenced, you know, Undertale, so it has influence obviously, but I don't really see them doing an adaptation of Mother at any point. Again, I'm sure it'd be good. I need to play those games, but I don't really think Mother is ever really going to be adapted. Not anytime soon, at least. Now, going back up to the top, we have Pikmin. And this one, it was between very likely and inevitable for me, but the reason that I put this in inevitable was because Pikmin is Miyamoto's baby. It is, you know, like... Miyamoto has has like several children, and Pikmin is the youngest one, and so he's going to treat this one the best, and he does. He absolutely smothers this series. He was a big part of the promotion for Pikmin Bloom. He sneaks the Pikmin in the theme parks. Pikmin is absolutely going to happen at some point, and I don't know if it would be a show, or if it would be a movie, or if it would just be short films in front of other movies. Whatever it is, Pikmin is getting a push, and they are really trying to push this series, and they've succeeded in Japan. It has become a huge deal in Japan, so I think Pikmin is all but confirmed in my mind. But next is Punch-Out!, which, you know, it should be maybe in more depends on circumstances than possible, but despite this being a dead series, I think I see the appeal in a Punch-Out! Movie being their answer to Rocky. I think Punch-Out!, it might be... people might still recognize the name. If they see a Punch-Out! Movie, they might still know what it is, because it was pretty big back in its day as an arcade game. I think people knew about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, so I think that if you kind of bring it back, maybe an animated movie or an animated show of it, or maybe even like a live action one, and it could be one of those situations where they make like a live action movie that is barely reminiscent of what it's based on, but it's just kind of using the name. I can actually see that happening, so I don't know. I mean, it's a dead series, and I hope it does come back, but I think Punch-Out!, it could have it has a place in the market, in my opinion. Unlike that, though, I think Rhythm Heaven, despite actually not being a dead series, that is actually getting a new game. I don't think a show. I think it would be an animated show, if anything. I don't really think this is going to happen. I'm sure it could work as a show, like a episodic one, but I think there's another series on here that that could kind of fill the role of what Rhythm Heaven would have as a show more. But I'm not sure what the Rhythm Heaven fans actually want. So I don't know if they would want a show or not. But if unless it blows up with Rhythm Heaven Groove, I don't really see a show in its future, or especially not a movie. Well, Smash Bros is a can of worms, really. It's a can of worms. Especially in this conversation specifically, I think everyone would call it inevitable, or maybe not anymore. But back with the Mario movie, everyone was like, Smash Bros is happening, and I was one of those people that was like, I don't know, because I don't know how to make it work. If you're trying to connect Mario and like the Zelda movie and Detective Pikachu, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. And especially some people were even saying the Sonic movie, like there's no way to make that work. But that doesn't really disclude the idea of a Smash Bros. Movie existing in its own right. I think you can still make it work, because Smash Bros. In of itself is such a big brand. It's such a big deal that it's just going to make so much money for them. So they must be considering it, and they could frame it as like a Mario movie. They could build up to it in the actual Mario movie universe and have him be the main character, and he discovers all these other characters in that. It could stomp on the toes of other adaptations, like the Metroid movie, the Zelda movie, the Donkey Kong movie. So I don't know if this would actually ever happen. But the name, the brand Smash Bros it is so big that it's impossible to ignore at some point. They could completely change the idea of Smash Bros. I don't know, but I think Super Smash Bros is. I think it's very likely at some point they decide to dip into that pot of gold, really, because it would make a lot of money for them. Next, we have the fourth pillar of the entire Nintendo as a whole, Splatoon, which is massive in Japan. It is so big. They have concerts there. This is one of their biggest series, and there's no way in my mind that this doesn't get adapted into something, and I think it will be a TV show. This is absolutely... it could even work as a movie, honestly, an animated movie, but I think a TV show makes sense. And I think having Animal Crossing and Splatoon being two like TV shows for them, and then you have Zelda and Mario being their movies, I think it's a good balance. And Splatoon just there's so much lore to Splatoon. Like you can make a post-apocalyptic movie, or you could make a summer vibes show tournament arc kind of thing. Yeah, I mean that's kind of why a show would work better. You can mix the Splatfest summer competition things with the Octoling versus Inkling racism and the and all the story laws, the DLC, the Octo expansion, the story modes of the first three, side order. There's so much stuff there that you can adapt, and I think a TV show would be a great way to do that. I think it would be big in Japan. It would be huge in Japan, this show would be. Next we have Star Fox, and this is in a similar camp to Pikmin, but in being Miyamoto biased, but I think it's significantly less likely to actually manifest because Star Fox is currently dead. It has been dead since Star Fox Zero, and that doesn't seem very encouraging for the future of the series. But there still was an effort in the Switch era to try and keep it somewhat relevant, because we got Star Fox characters in Starlink, so that wasn't a new game, but that's still an effort, I suppose. And I think Miyamoto, he has a big involvement in the series. Obviously he was very involved with Star Fox Zero, so I think that maybe a Star Fox movie that later down the line it could happen. I think that the concept of it could appeal to an audience. I think it's anthropomorphic animals in a sci-fi adventure. There's no reason why it wouldn't appeal to fans. Obviously it doesn't have as much brand recognition, but if you build up trust, if you build up audience trust with these Nintendo movies, and the fact that it's a Nintendo movie might be able to sell it alone, I suppose. So I think Miyamoto bias is definitely favouring it in this tier list at the moment. Now, the Legendary Starfy, I don't really know much about this series, but I don't really see this happening. Even if it was a huge deal, I think that, I don't want to say it's too similar to Kirby, because that would probably piss off fans. But I don't really see a reason why they'd ever really think about adapting Legendary Starfy when majority of the games aren't even in English. This is probably not going to happen. But I mean, I hope the Starfy fans get what they want in the future, maybe a new game. But yeah, I'm not really counting on this being adapted anytime soon. Now, WarioWare, I was like between very likely and possible. I think I landed on possible because, I was really convinced on the idea of WarioWare as a show being a great way to spin off from the Mario universe in a very, very different way, like Luigi's Mansion and like Donkey Kong. But the series doesn't do very well financially, and so I don't know if Nintendo are very interested. And the games are entirely based on being games, right? So I don't know if that would adapt as well to a show. But at the end of the day, it is essentially set up perfectly like a episodic show where you have these eccentric characters and they go up to different things each episode. It would work very well, and I could see them going for it. So I put it in possible, at the very top of possible, but I think that it's probably the likeliest out of the possible tier, in my opinion. I think that there is definitely something there. I think it could be a good little show that they could have, and they could go on for as long as they need, because there's not really an overarching story. But next is Xenoblade Chronicles, and this is a series that I am biased to, so I'm going to put this at the top of possible, and I will explain myself. So I have delusions of grandeur. I'm very delusional to the idea of Xenoblade being adapted into a movie. I think that you could make a really, really cool live-action trilogy based on the original game split into 3. I know a lot of people will think that's sacrilegious, but I think with the right budget, with the right people involved, you could make it a really epic trilogy, like Lord of the Rings, like Dune is going to be, like Star Wars. I think it has the mixed appeal of all those series, with the story kind of splitting itself into 3, maybe unintentionally. Like it's got very clear cut-off points that you can. Anyway, that's not very likely at the moment. This is mainly for an anime like the Fire Emblem, but maybe if the anime does well, then maybe we could get that movie that I'm talking about. Maybe I could make it, but an anime. This is not the best-selling series, but it's still an important one to Nintendo. This is a Game of the Year nominated series for them, and I think they do see the importance in it. I think there is a lot of passion. The fan base is big. I think. I just think it is I think it's a possible. It's a great way of getting the stories of these games out to more people that aren't willing to try the actual games themselves because of the gameplay, however much they're turned off by that. So I think Xenoblade Chronicles, I'm a little bit biased in this, but I do genuinely think that we will get something at some point. And there are rumours about it, but I don't know how much I believe them. Next is Yoshi, and the thing with Yoshi is that it should probably be in like a likely tier or a possible tier, because at the end of the day this is a spin-off of Mario, and so we're more likely to get Mario spin-offs. However, Yoshi is going to be the main character in was going to be the main focus of Mario 2, and I think that a lot of the backstory and a lot of the appeal of a Yoshi's Island adaptation will probably be in that. And so beyond that, you get, you could do a Wally World. I don't really think you do a Wally World adaptation, but you could, I suppose. You could do a spin-off show or a spin-off movie, but I think it really, to me, it depends on how big of a deal Yoshi is. Like, if we see the Mario movie 2 come out and like Yoshi is the new Minions, then absolutely Yoshi is like inevitable, gonna happen 100%. But if he's like, he's popular, but like he fits where he is, then I don't really see the point in making a Yoshi series. Unlike Donkey Kong and unlike Luigi's Mansion even, I think Yoshi kind of has an identity issue. A lot of his series staples are kind of shared with Mario. I think he's a little bit more shared with Mario than the other ones. I think the only real Yoshi character is like Poochie, really. So I don't know. I mean, there's always a chance that they go with a Yoshi spin-off, but I think it's in response to what the Mario movie 2 does, and I don't know that yet, so I can't really say anything on that. So I'm putting this in depends on circumstances. And just like that, I'm also putting the last one, Arms, in depends on circumstances as well, because I think that this series has a high potential for a really successful anime, because there's just so many cool characters in Arms, with so much lore that is untapped, that you could make a really good show based on it. But the only issue is that obviously we don't know the fate of this series right now. Arms is in a little bit of a limbo. We're waiting for a sequel to be announced or acknowledged. And until it does, then I won't say anything definitive, but I think if it does happen, then I would expect an anime to happen at some point. They even had a visual novel that was planned at some point, so obviously there is story there that they have in mind, and I think it could be a really cool, it could be a great show. I think Arms has a lot of untapped potential in general, and I think that a TV show would be the best way to adapt it. So that is my tier list. That's just everything, really. There are some series, as I said before, that aren't here, but these were the main ones. Unless I missed something, I don't think I missed anything. I mean, Astral Chain, I suppose, counts. I didn't really put it on here. I think that's pretty unlikely to be adapted into a movie, though, if you want to know my opinion on it. Famicom Detective Club, again, I would say it was pretty unlikely to be adapted into anything. Again, it could work as an anime, I suppose, but I think the fact that the genre itself is a graphic novel is, it's kind of already kind of doing what it would do as an adaptation anyway. I don't really think there's much you can add to it. But I suppose they could go that direction, but I'm not going to say that's very likely. And same with Endless Ocean. I don't think Endless Ocean is going to be adapted anytime soon. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's literally any sub-series that I didn't discuss that you think could be a movie or a TV show, or if there is if one of the ones that I did rank that you disagree with and you want to argue why I'm wrong, then please tell me what you think. I would be very interested. And so thank you for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.